Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another 2024 election simulation hypothetical matchup video. It is the Vice President Kamala Harris taking on Donald Trump, who is facing another indictment. This is a very unlikely matchup. I still do expect Trump to be the Republican nominee, of course, depending on his legal situation. Harris, on the other hand, funny story with Kamala Harris. They were really pushing for her back during the Democratic primary in 2020, right before the pandemic happened. They were pushing her to be the nominee for the Democrats, and it makes complete sense. You know, she's female, she's a minority, she checks both boxes, but she just cannot debate and she cannot communicate. And at one point, I don't know if this is still true, at one point earlier this year, she had the worst approval rating amongst, all right, I'm just going to start filling this out as I talk. She had the worst approval rating, like, on record for any vice president. But, you know, I'm still going to give, I don't think it's crazy radical. I mean, this is still a politician, a Democrat. The heavy Democratic states who are, like, already 15 points pro-Dem, they're not going to flip. California's not going to flip. Hawaii's not going to flip. I got to remember to do Hawaii and Alaska. I always forget. You know, New Mexico could be one that gets interesting because of Kamala Harris and her incompetence. Colorado, I saw Biden won it in 2020 by 15 points. I did not realize that. We're going to shade these a little bit different just because I don't think some of these margins are going to be that crazy. Moving to Trump, obviously all of these. You know, Nevada's a swing state. We'll get back to it. Arizona's a swing state. All of these. I'm going to give Trump all of these regions as well. The one district, the Lincoln, Nebraska district, is always the one that the Democrats win. Although it's been trending Republican a little bit. Biden won it by 5 points back in 2020. North and South Dakota, Iowa, pretty strong conservative state. You know, I saw a recent thing where, you know, it's like all the safe Republican states and all the safe Democrat states, and now the math is actually a lot better for Republicans because they have Ohio and Florida now, and it's a lot more even. But obviously for Republicans, not good that Georgia now is a swing state, and a swing state to the point where, you know, Biden won it by less than a point. Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, you can just roll through those. West Virginia, Ohio, I'm going to say lighter red. Actually, we'll go second to dark shade red. Florida, same thing. Kamala versus Trump. Oklahoma. Sometimes I just randomly fill it out and forget to do some of these. And then obviously with the, I don't know what that was. Obviously with the dimple states, you're going to say Kamala's going to win all of these. No, pretty much no matter what. There's just too big of a margin. And it's not like this is a joke candidate. You know, this is the vice president. This is a Democrat. This is someone that's been in politics for a while. So this is not a complete blowout. But I do think Republicans, whoever the nominee ends up being, probably Trump, unless there's some legal crap that comes up, they're going to use the fact that Biden's so old and talk to the independent voter. And I'm sure Kamala Harris is extremely unpopular among independents if she's polling at -10 in terms of approval rating. I mean, that's already bad enough. Pence was never even close to that bad. Normally, the VP's a lot better in terms of approval than the president just because there's no spotlight on them. That's why it's so shocking and so terrible for Harris that she's that low. And she only got the VP because they needed to balance the ticket. You know, you have to understand the Democratic Party at this point, it's all identity politics. So if you've got Biden, who's an 80-year-old, or I guess at the time, like a 77-year-old white dude, so that's why Harris was kind of thrust into being the VP. Now, on their Democratic tickets, I would expect them to go one male, one female, or two straight up females, honestly, for the future, just based on how their current party is trending. If they go Gavin Newsom, I'm sure they're going to keep Harris as the VP. It gets interesting if, you know, Biden is out, you know, you would expect it to be Newsom. It just cannot be Harris. There's no way they would go with Harris and trot her out. But she still would win some of these states. She still is a well-known politician with name recognition. But getting back to this, you're going to go Illinois for Harris. You're going to go New York for Harris. I do think a lot of the swing states here, that's not a swing state, I do think a lot of these swing states are going to end up going Trump. Texas, I don't think Texas is in play. I've talked about it. You know, they keep saying it was really Hillary in 2016. They said it was going to flip to where Trump wins it by like 6 points, same margin in 2020. Now they're saying because of Gavin Newsom's incompetence, everyone's fleeing California and moving to Austin. Maybe they could flip Texas indirectly thanks to Gavin Newsom's incompetence with how horrible California is, all the liberals leaving California but still voting liberal. That's a phenomenon that's happening now. I mean, you look at the who's gaining the most in terms of population. It's Florida, it's Texas. I mean, I did a video on it. It's Florida, Texas, and Idaho, the three big gainers, and then people leaving New York, California. People are just done with the taxes, man. That's what it is. It's just so much, the state income tax. Minnesota, certainly. Remember, Minnesota. Minnesota, I would say, is, you know, it's a slight Trump lean in this matchup. So Trump actually did do pretty well last year in Minnesota. 2016, Hillary crushed him by like 10 points, but he only lost by 6 last year. Could he make, you know what, I'll just give it to Kamala. We want to keep it realistic, but I think the entire Rust Belt, Wisconsin being the obvious one, goes for Trump. Michigan, it would be closer. Certainly, Michigan is probably a slightly more Democratic state because of Detroit. But I do think Michigan and Pennsylvania would be Trump. I think New Hampshire, Trump would win. I think, North Carolina, Trump would keep. And then Georgia, Trump would flip again. New Mexico, Harris, you've got to give it to her, even if it's slight, by like 6 or 7 points. Trump, I think, takes these two. Nevada, slightly. Arizona, maybe a little bit more. I do think Arizona is probably trending a little bit more red. I know Kerry Lake lost, but just in general, that seems like a red state. It's always shocking to me, and I understand minority turnout matters, and that's one of the big tickets for the Democrats to win. It's crazy to me that white suburban voters vote Democrat. It's just when you hear the dialogue about what a lot of these younger Democrats and really far left people think of the suburbs, and then it's like they're hating on the same people that win them the elections. It's remarkable. And if you want to know why the Democrats went with a 77-year-old white dude, it's because someone like that can win the white suburban vote, and that is how they won Georgia. Just look at all the suburbs around Atlanta. And then Virginia, I don't know. Virginia, I don't see. Listen, Glenn Youngkin might have flipped it. And then we'll just split these up. I don't know. We'll give Kamala some. We're feeling a little bad for her. But it would look something like this. I don't see. I mean, maybe Kamala, if you want to be a little bit nicer, she takes Virginia, possibly takes Michigan. I could see that maybe. And then also maybe Nevada. That would be like best case scenario. Even if you wanted to throw Arizona, it really wouldn't change anything. I think Trump, would he win the popular vote? I still don't think he would. It's going to be very hard for the Republicans to win the popular vote. I thought DeSantis could do it, but his campaign has completely gone off the rails for a number of reasons. I think he's been attacked by Trump and Democrats, and also it's partly his doing, to be completely honest. I mean, I don't know what DeSantis' strategy was. He announced, and then I think right after he went on like a book tour in Europe. It's just a dumb thing. DeSantis should have been doing what Vivek Ramaswamy was doing, which is going everywhere, trying to be the young, hip conservative, go on all the conservative YouTube channels, go on all the conservative young talk shows, try and, be the cool guy. You don't have to go after Trump right now, but there were arguments that DeSantis could have made. It's like Trump lost in 2020. His candidates did really bad in 2022. I won a purple state in 2022 by 20 points. I single-handedly swung Florida to a clear Republican state at this point. But it's just DeSantis is so deep now in a hole. And I almost feel like if Trump somehow is unable to run, the MAGA base will go to Ramaswamy, which would be interesting as well. So this is what it would be like, guys. It's something like this. I really don't think Trump would have an issue with Kamala Harris, but if I'm the Democrats, I'm not interested in running Kamala. I do think it could be an issue if they want to go with Biden. The Republicans are going to use that and say, look at Biden, he can barely talk. Do we really expect him to get through 4 more years? Look at the deterioration just in the last 3 or 4 years. Now he can't even campaign. He can barely walk. He can barely answer questions. I don't even know the last time he answered questions. It was probably when he said that he cured cancer. But I'm not even sure if he was answering questions or he just made that statement. But that is just the hypothetical prediction. If it somehow happened, something happens to Biden, and they end up having to go with Harris. I mean, hypothetically, she is next in line behind Joseph Biden. So, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.